Year 9, Year 10, Year 11, welcome to some revision on Lady Capulet in preparation for the exam. Very, very basically then, to get us started, she is Juliet's mother. She is a woman who married young. She's eager to see Juliet marry Paris. She's not really effective as a mother, and we know that she relies on the nurse. A little bit more depth then, she comes across as materialistic because she wants Juliet to gain wealth and status by marrying Paris. She goes against Juliet to avoid the rage of Lord Capulet. She seems unforgiving, especially in the instance when, she implies that she'll never forgive Romeo, and really she wants him dead. She's not a great mother, as she asks the nurse to accompany her when she tries to speak to Juliet. The themes that Lady Capulet, I suppose, embodies or represents love and women's roles in society. Her attitude towards love is for wealth and status. She seems cold, doesn't she? She follows really the rules of a patriarchal society. She never thinks about Juliet's thoughts or feelings. Her loyalty to Lord Capulet obviously is what we would expect of women in that era, in the Elizabethan era. So, she conforms to that notion. The uncaring nature of her, though, towards Juliet shows this sense of detachment, because I suppose there's something about Lady Capulet in that Act 3, Scene 5, where she's fearful. She's fearful of Lord Capulet and perhaps the society that she has to reside in. I've picked out some key quotes that you can use then for Lady Capulet. Is by no means everything, but it might help. So we've got, enough nurse, I pray thee hold thy peace. So the conflict between the nurse and Lady Capulet is set up immediately, where she comes across as quite cold. She shows no affection towards the memories of Juliet's childhood, because remember, the nurse is like walking down memory lane, really, isn't she, and talking about the memories of Juliet as a babe. And Lady Capulet just doesn't want to get involved, and I suppose that foreshadows the distance between the two and the lack of understanding between the two, which is inevitably going to follow Lady Capulet throughout the play. The use of the exclamation mark there, I suppose, adds a sense of anger or irritation in the fact that she's perhaps irritated that the nurse does know more than Juliet. But remember, during society at the time, that's what we'd expect of a family like this, that the nurse would look after the daughter. This night you shall behold him at our face, straight over the volume of young Paris's face, and find delight writ there with beauty's pen. The book reference, metaphorical obviously, implies that Lady Capulet is not concerned whether Juliet loves him, and it links to the idea that his social position is their concern. Now it becomes an extended metaphor when she implies, reading the book and then looking at his face, that she should marry for beauty. Again then, we've got this notion that Lady Capulet is not concerned about her child or her daughter's happiness, but rather it's quite a shallow love that is presented, and arguably it's a mother who doesn't understand love. And she doesn't understand her own daughter, because remember, Juliet's response there is about looking and liking, but she won't promise to love. So again, this notion that she really doesn't understand her child is really coming through in the play. And again, this notion of reading the book and looking at his face perhaps also is synonymous with the fact that that's how she's had to deal with her marriage to Lord Capulet. She does, though, want a private conversation with Juliet and tries to dismiss the nurse, but she calls her straight back. So again, is she accepting that the nurse has a closer bond with Juliet, or is she uncomfortable because she's perhaps doesn't have that strong relationship with Juliet where they can talk about intimate things alone? She's excited about Paris when she says, Verona's summer hath not such a flower. So look at that metaphor. But Juliet's answers remain non-committal, implying this distance. And then the flip side of that is Lady Capulet trying too hard here to impress her daughter with Paris as a suitor? She tries her best to find a common ground with Juliet by saying, by my count, I was your mother, much upon these years that you are now a maid. But Juliet just doesn't join in the enthusiasm to be married, and she doesn't join in Lady Capulet's point about being excited about Paris as a suitor. And if you go back to Verona's summer hath not such a flower again, we've got this subtle notion of social position. Don't forget that Paris is related to Princess Gillis. So by marrying them, their social standing in Verona perhaps outweighs the Montagues. So it's actually an arranged marriage of quite clear significance there. I beg for justice which thou prince must give. Romeo slew Tybalt, Romeo must not live. She upholds family honour, which we know is contextual and something that we might need in an answer. But look at your rhyme there. The rhyme here solidifies this desperate need she has for revenge against Romeo, and she comes across as quite cold and calculating there, perhaps mirroring and paralleling the cold mother we've witnessed, the mother that doesn't really know her daughter, and the mother in Act 3, Scene 5, who is willing to disown her daughter. So actually, arguably, Lady Capulet is perhaps a little bit violent in this moment. Evermore weeping for your cousin's death. This is a big moment in the play because she thinks Juliet is upset at the death of Tybalt when in fact it's the exile of Romeo. So we've got this huge misunderstanding on Lady Capulet's part, and it serves to really emphasise her ignorance. She knows very little about Juliet, and actually Juliet is able to manipulate her through her wordplay and through her language when she talks about beholding Romeo dead. So again, we've got this mistake that she thinks she's grieving over Tybalt, but it's Romeo. She doesn't know her daughter. She doesn't pick up on Juliet's mishap when she almost reveals her love for Romeo by talking about him very subtly, because Lady Capulet is too focused on violent thoughts and revenge that she doesn't quite listen to what Juliet says about beholding Romeo. So you've got that lack of knowledge, you've got that ignorance, and you've got that, I suppose, the notion that Lady Capulet is attempting to uphold the honour of the Capulets here by requesting the revenge and the death of Romeo. Talk not to me, for I'll not speak a word. Do as thou wilt, for I have done with thee. Remember, this is the moment with Lord Capulet. She is powerless to defend Juliet. Why? It's a patriarchal society. She belongs to Lord Capulet. Any parental or maternal instinct disappears because social etiquette becomes her priority, and the fact that she's scared of him. Remember, as you research the context of Romeo and Juliet and the Elizabethan era, then you know that women had little freedom, little power, didn't really have many rights, so she can't actually defend her child here. And look at the word done. There's a finality about that, something absolute that arguably she's given in, and she knows she can't protect Juliet in this moment. We get, O me, my child, my only life, revive, look up, or I will die with thee, help, help, call help. Look at the sentences have started to break down here, where we do see Lady Capulet's grief. We get the repetition of me and my, the notion that obviously Juliet belonged to her, it was her child, my only life. It claims really that this is the only reason that Lady Capulet is alive, which I suppose as an audience, then there's a bit of an irony in the sense that she didn't know her very well. She then pleads to die with Juliet, I will die with thee. So again, the grief is truly highlighted there in the sense that she feels like she can't survive without her. And then she says, alack the day she's dead, she's dead, she's dead. And we get that triple there and that exclamation mark of high emotion. And, you know, the mourning of Juliet on Lady Capulet's part. This is by no means everything on Lady Capulet. It was just some ideas some ideas we might want to consider if we end up writing about her. Please check my playlist for all of the other characters and themes, and massive good luck in your English literature exam.